What's good, guys? Welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow. Tonight, we are going to be breaking down one of the most watched criminal cases in America right now, the case of Mr. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis in the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur. Jury selection is set for around August 10th, not very far from now in Las Vegas, and this is the first time anyone has gone to trial for the killing in history. And we're going to go deep on the facts, the admissions, the reversals, the Diddy angle, and what the prosecution and defense are actually fighting over the night of September 7th after Mike Tyson's fight at the MGM Grand Arena. Tupac and Death Row Associates beat up Orlando Babyland Anderson, which was Keefe D's nephew, in the lobby. Later that night in Las Vegas on the Strip, a white Cadillac pulled up next to Tupac's black BMW that was carrying Tupac and Suge Knight. Shots were fired and Tupac was hit 4 times. 6 days later, at age 25, he was confirmed dead, and the world was changed forever. Suge was lightly wounded. Prosecutors say Keefe D, then a Southside Compton Crip, was the shot caller. He supplied the gun, was in the Cadillac, in the passenger seat, per his earlier accounts, and directed the retaliation. The indictment does not name a definitive shooter. It points to Anderson and or DeAndre Freaky Big Dre Smith as the possible gunman. Anderson was killed in an unrelated Compton shooting in 1998. Other alleged occupants are dead or long silent. Keefe D's own words are what have built this case. For years, the case was cold, and there have been many documentaries built around that big fact that the case was cold. And then, you know what? Keefe D decided that it was time to tell his story, and he started talking. So in 2008, police interview the LAPD task force, including Greg Kading. He described being in the Cadillac, handing over the gun, and Anderson, quote unquote, popping them. He claimed that detectives promised the interview would not be used against him. It was a proffer style protection agreement tied to other drug matters. A Nevada judge ruled in late July 2026 that recording is admissible at trial, and prosecutors say any protection evaporated once he went public. A 2019 memoir, Compton Street Legend, co-written with Yusuf Jah, he detailed a fight at the MGM and the green light after his nephew was jumped, obtaining a gun and riding in the car. Prosecutors have successfully moved to use the portions of the book. Keefe D has since claimed that he never even read it and that the writer filled in details. Multiple media appearances on Vlad TV, documentaries, and other podcasts repeating versions of the same story. Prosecutors have argued that since 2019, he has publicly acknowledged ordering and facilitating the killing on multiple occasions. He also alleged that Sean Diddy Combs put a $1 million bounty on Tupac and Suge, and that he spent years trying to collect that bounty. Those claims appeared in the 2008 interview and later accounts. Diddy has never been charged, obviously, publicly, or named a suspect by Las Vegas police, and he has long denied any involvement. The arrest and the charges happened on September 29th, 2023. That's when Keefe D was arrested near his Henderson, Nevada home. A grand jury indicted him on murder with use of a deadly weapon plus a gang enhancement. He has been held without or with very high bail for most of the time. Since, though, a recent hearing left open the possibility of bail before or during trial, he has pleaded not guilty and faces obviously life without parole if convicted. Key legal fights so far are motions claiming that he was using that Queen for a Day statue and that he had immunity during the 2008 interviewing, arguing decades long delay violated his rights. A district judge rejected dismissal, and related issues have gone up towards the Nevada Supreme Court. And challenges to the search warrant have came out too, and evidence from his home, a lot of electronics, photos, copies of his memoir, and attempts to keep the book and media statements out. Major pieces are coming back in though, like the recent jailhouse interview that happened recently in late July, just days before jury selection. Keefe D sat down with the local news channel, 8 News, with investigators from jail. And his key points from that interview, he said that he denies any role whatsoever in the murder, saying, "I had nothing to do with nobody's murder," quote unquote. He says the early admissions, the book, the interviews were done for money to try to support his family. And on Diddy, he now says that Diddy had no role in Tupac's killing, walking back to the $1 million bounty narrative that prosecutors may still use. And obviously, he refused a plea deal. And when you look at his age, you could see why he might as well just take his chances at trial, citing his age. He's 63, has cancer histories, heart stents, and the view that he may not have very much long left anyway. So, like I said, he might as well take his shot. You know, prosecutors frame this as a classic damage control after years of self-incrimination. The defense paints the prior statements as exaggeration and public publicity stunts that never contained the kind of corroborating detail needed to convict him. Let's talk about what's coming at trial and what's to be expected. We're going to be keeping up with this case as it goes on. So I'm thinking it's going to last roughly probably about a month. So Suge Knight is on the prosecution's witness list, and the state's theory is conspiracy orchestration rather than who physically pulled the trigger. They lean heavily on Keefe D's own recorded and published words. The defense is going to attack credibility, the age of the case, alleged promises of immunity, lack of physical evidence tying him directly as the shooter or definitive organizer, and the claim that he was simply cashing in on this street lore. Now, there's a separate civil action. Maurice Mopreme Shakur, Tupac's stepbrother, has filed a wrongful death lawsuit naming Keefe D and others, referencing material from the Netflix Sean Combs The Reckoning series, among other sources. And let's talk about, the bottom line. This case is unusual because the primary evidence against the defendant is the defendant himself, repeatedly in writing and on audio and on camera over more than a decade. And that is both the prosecution's strength and the defense's opening, that he was just selling a story. Whether a Las Vegas jury treats the 2008 interview, the memoir, and the media appearances as reliable confessions, we'll go to see if that remains to be seen, or if they treat it as unreliable, mythology, it will decide the outcome. The recent public denial and clearing of Diddy added another layer of inconsistency, though, that the jury will hear about. The jury selection begins intimately. This is the first real courtroom test of one of hip hop's longest running murder mysteries. We'll stay up to date on the filings, the testimony, and the verdict when it comes out. So that's the deep dive on Keefe D's situation as it stands right now. Stay locked in for up to dates once this trial is underway, guys. Like and subscribe. Catch you guys on the next one.